You can level up your art by understanding value. Value is about how dark or light a color is, and just with the use of a range from light to dark, you can create form and shape. We will do 3 different exercises or value studies, first using a grayscale, so different values from white all the way to black to show that we can still create a banana. But then we're going to sub in those colors for purple to show that we can replace any value with another color of the same value, which is how we can get really unique art pieces. And then we will work with more realistic banana colors to create a loose sketch of a banana. Grab your pastels and let's get started. Let's start with 3 values from black to medium gray to a light gray. And I'm just going to start with my mid value, just laying in the overall shape of my banana. So I'm going to use about, I don't know, 1/4 of the end here, and just to do that stem, putting in some of those dark areas, shade that out, get that little stem in there. And now on its side for that rounded half moon shape. And I can put it on its side to get in that shading of that underside plane of my banana. And then I've got a little bit up here where the banana starts. And there's also a little bit of this tone on this plane here of this banana. The upper plane. And I can use darker parts for the end. Then I can bring in my darkest, my black. Sketch in that little stem. Some of these areas of deeper shadow underneath. And there's areas that are smaller on mine, and then areas where I've got a little more. And I don't mind those like loose edges because we're not going for perfection here. We're going for the idea of the shape of my banana. And there's a little bit of shadow here and a little bit on that back stem. And I've got a blemish on my banana, so I'm just going to let that be. And already we can start seeing our banana form just with this. But I'm going to bring in now my light. These are Rembrandt, so they're pretty hard pastel. And just allow still that spot that I want a little bit of shine. And I also have little highlights, some other areas, so I'm just going to grab that in there. And just like that, very quickly, you can already identify this as banana, or at least I hope you can. I'm going to add a little bit extra into that stem, like so. So just with our values, we already have a sense of form and shape, and we can identify this as banana, even on just sketch paper, which pastel is really not. That's not its strength. If you're finding this video helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Now we're going to do that value sketch in color, but we're not going to do typical colors for banana. Instead, we're going to go with a light purple, a medium purple, and very dark purple. You could use any color of your choice with 3 values. I'm going to begin with my middle purple on edge, and I'm going to just draw in that stem shape again. This is with a Rembrandt. It's a little bit of a longer Rembrandt than what we had before, which is making it a little harder, and I could break it, I suppose. Here's my shape of that lower plane. And then I've got a little bit of my upper plane, especially around this edge here. I don't want to get too much into this spot. And then there's my end of my banana. Now we're going to bring in my dark color. This is a Terry Ludwig. This is the eggplant. So it's going to go on differently. I'm going to get that blemish in there again.
that shadow. I've got more of a shadow here coming through. A little bit down at the bottom of that edge and a little off this end. And that's probably as much of the dark as I would want for this banana. Just glaze it in over top. And then I have my light purple. So I'm going to bring in my light purple for that upper plane. I'm actually allowing a little bit of this light from the paper to come through and add another value. I don't know if I mentioned that on the other ones. And once again, I think you can already tell this is a banana, and yet it is purple. And this is why we are able to make funky colored anythings and make them still recognizable, even though they're in a completely different color. So as long as we're using value, we can describe shape and form and light and shadow of an object, which gives everybody an idea of what it is. So even if you were drawing a fox, you could draw a purple fox because you're using the right values to describe that purple fox. So that's my purple banana.
I suspect we could argue that the purple banana looks a little bit more like a pepper, but I don't think that's the value's fault. That's a little bit my fault. But here's our grayscale banana and our purple banana.
Now, knowing what we know about value, can we take some actual banana-y colors? So I've got like a greeny yellow, I have a little bit of a creamy yellow, more of a couple buttery yellows, and then I don't know, I guess that's like a yellow ochre, and then I do have a brown. Let's take those colors and see with a proper bit of pastel matte paper here, can we get a decent looking banana? So I'm gonna go for my yellow ochre kind of color, my middle of the road tone. And I'm going to do very much what I just did. I'm going to kind of start out. Now, of course, I'm working with Senneliers now, and I'm also working with the pastel matte, so things are going to grip a little bit more. And we're just going to lift up. So I'm putting it on, lifting it up for that banana shape. So our shadows. Now, the nice thing about this, now that we're working with a better paper, we're going to be able to cover it up too. So if we put anything on that we're not satisfied with, well, we are going to be able to bring in another color and go right over top, whether that color is darker or lighter. So that's kind of my underside now of my banana. I'm going to take my little yellowy green to do this area off the end. And I'm even going to use it for my upper plane of my banana. The bananas are kind of funny because they actually have, they're almost like, you know, like these little hexagon kind of vibe going on if you look at all their different planes that they have. And those different planes are important to notice. So I'm going to come in with my greeny yellow for this lower plane as well. And again, just because we already have a few different colors on here, you can already start to see this banana. It may not be a beautiful banana, but it's a banana all the same. And I'm going to come in with my darkest, my brown, do a little bit of work on this stem. And even that area of a bruise. And that little end part of the stem as well. And I think we're going to get in there a little bit with the shadow. So people have a clue that there's a dimension and there's light somewhere up above on this banana. Then I'm going to come in with more of like a buttery yellow color. And this is a quick draw here that we've got going on, but I'm just quickly making my lines over. There is this, so there's a bottom plane in the darker value, and then there's actually this mid plane here. So I'm going to come in with this color and make that mid plane, just sort of scraping it over. And it's actually up in here as well, because my banana kind of flattens out. And if you're drawing yours, it might be a little bit different than mine. Get that in there too. And this is a little bit of a scraggly area, but we're gonna let that be. Then I'm gonna come in with a much yellower color, and I actually think I should wipe this one off. So I've got a cloth, and it's out of view here because it's stuck. Here we go. And we're just gonna give that a wipe. Now this is a very banana-y color. Just gonna bring my banana to sort of a lemony life. And I'm gonna glaze it over some of these areas. I don't want to cover all of the colors that I have, because what would be the point in that? But I'm going to take that in here and just kind of give it a little skate over where that plane is. Sorry about the chainsaw in the background. Things are going on in the neighborhood. I don't know if you can hear it. And this highlight here, it's not as strong as this in real life. So I'm gonna have to decide how much of that highlight I wanna have. I might bring in kind of a yellow, this is a bit of a creamy color that I hadn't had here, and just kind of go over that because it's not incredibly bright in my studio. And so I don't want it to be too much. And I'm gonna skate it in here too for those dimensions, and even a little bit down on the bottom because you can actually see some little areas where it's relevant. And now hopefully with these additional values that I've brought in with these colors, I start to see the three-dimensional side of this banana. Now I want to bring in a little bit more of that dark plane, so I'm bringing in this brown here. I guess I described it as yellowy ochre before. And there's also some little damaged spots on this banana. It's been through the ringer, went through a shopping bag, it's been hanging out in a basket. Like all bananas, it's experiencing some things. I might give this a little bit more shape back here, just with my yellow-green, a little more dimension off that back side. But if you're going for loose, you do not need to fill in every little blank here. Otherwise you get into that danger zone of overworking things, right? We don't want to do that. But I do want this color, so I'm just going to skate it over some of these other surfaces. I think that looks very banana-y. And we mostly did that through understanding our values and then just bringing in a handful of colors. It's just, and that's how we get that loose, quick mark. Here we go. So those are our colors. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I used 7 different values, but you could argue that these two are really similar, so you might not need those. And that is your banana.